Kia ora, welcome to Under the Checkered Flag, MotoGP edition. I'm your host Kate, and we're just going to jump right in. This week we are picking up just where we left off last week. It's PozzA and I giving our Moto2 Riders ratings. Oh, is it this thing? Haha. I might even include this in the part that goes out. Entertaining. Anyway. On to Moto2 Riders ratings, and we are starting with American racing. So we had Rory Skinner and Marcos Ramirez. I've gone for Skinner a 4 out of 10 and Ramirez a 7 out of 10. With Ramirez, he did score a podium, and once he swapped from the forward to the calyx, he was really fast, which is why I gave him such a high rating.
I went pretty similar. I had Rory Skinner at a 3.5 and Ramirez at a 7. I feel like Ramirez, you'd almost have to have separate ratings for like the first half and second half of the season. Because obviously in the forward, being comfortably the worst bike on the grid, he was sort of nowhere. And as soon as he switched over to the Calyx, he was sort of consistently top 6, which was really impressive throughout the year. So yeah, I've put him at a 7. If he was on the Calyx throughout the whole year, he probably almost could have been at an 8. Fantic Motor is the next team, with Celestino Vietti and Cassidy. I had Cassidy at a 2.5. I feel like he was pretty much just a replacement rider at the last few races. I don't think he's ever ridden a Moto2 bike before, but I might be wrong on that. But I had him at a 2.5. I feel like he wasn't really fighting for any points at any stage. Not really a great couple of races. Vietti, I feel like he probably had a lot of expectation coming into the year, which he didn't completely fulfill. He did win a race. He might have gotten a couple podiums. I'm honestly not too sure. But yeah, I have him at a 6.5.
Yeah, for Cassidy, I went 3 out of 10 because my only notes I actually wrote down was nowhere. So maybe a 3 out of 10 is generous, but yeah. Hopping onto a bike, I don't think he has ridden Moto2 before, but I'd still expect a little bit better. And for Vietti, I've gone for a 6 out of 10 because he did start the year really strong. And I guess it's a similar thing to Holgado. The second half of the season really negatively impacted my thoughts about him. So I hope he does well next year. He is on the grid this year, right?
I think he is.
Yeah, I'm just doubting myself now. Moving on to Gas Aspar team. So we have Eisen Guevara and Jake Dixon. For Guevara, I have gone for a 6 out of 10. So he was a rookie, and once he got comfortable with the bike, he did look quite strong. A good couple of top 10s, and I think next year he could definitely be fighting for some podiums and some wins. For Jake Dixon, I have gone for a 7 out of 10, and I may be a little bit biased here, but I actually really love Jake Dixon, just because he's such a fun character and wears his heart on his sleeve, even if that does mean we get like those painful interviews.
Ban him! Ban him!
He says that we should ban. I think 7 out of 10, he did put in some strong performances this year.
I had Guevara at a 5.5. I feel like, obviously being Moto3 champion the year before, he did have a lot of expectation coming in, but he missed, I think, all of testing and the first 3-4 races of the year, so he was sort of behind on getting used to the Moto2 bike, which obviously historically has been pretty difficult to adapt to for most riders. But I feel like sort of towards the end of the year, he was getting up into Q2, getting a couple of top 10s, starting to really impress. But yeah, I have him at a 5.5. Jake Dixon, I put at an 8 out of 10. I feel like his mid-season form was pretty good, getting I think 2 race wins, a couple of podiums. But towards the end, I feel like it just fell off a little bit. But yeah, it wasn't terrible. Wasn't Pedro Acosta level, but yep, 8 out of 10. Next up, Elfmark VDS with Tony Arbolino and Sam Lowes. I had Lowes at a 6.5. Yeah, he did get a race win at Jerez. Apart from that, he was sort of lower down than he probably would have liked to be. But yeah, 6.5 out of 10 for Lowes. Tony Arbolino, his first half of the season, I feel was pretty good, sort of on par with Acosta for most of it. But just the second half of the season, pretty much out of nowhere, his confidence just seemed to drop, and he was sort of just fighting for points, whereas Acosta was pretty much consistently on the podium. Um, he'll obviously want to improve next year, but I have him at a 9 out of 10.
Arbolino's a funny one because I don't think this is the first year where he's had this second half drop of form. That being said, I gave him an 8 out of 10. He was in the title fight and he was reasonably there throughout the year and he was in the points. If he kept up his start of season form, I think we could have actually had a championship battle, which is obviously what we'd all prefer. For Sam Lowes, I've gone for a 6 out of 10. Lewis obviously did not like me giving Sam Lowes a 6 out of 10 because he just kicked me. So that's nice. Because, yeah, with Lowes, he was good but not great. So that's why I've scored him there. For Pwns, we go Los 40. Sergio Garcia and Adam Canet. I have given Garcia a 7 out of 10. Probably because he was the top rookie, but also I think he did have really strong performances throughout the year. Canet, I've given a 7 out of 10. He got lots of podiums, and yeah, we know I love Canet. He's probably my favourite rider in that class, so could be a bit biased, but 7 out of 10 for him.
I had Garcia at a 7 out of 10. I feel like as a rookie, he was really impressive, getting a couple of top 5, top 6s, fighting for podiums sort of near the end of the season. Obviously, top rookie, probably by quite a distance. So yeah, I think he did really well. I had Canet at an 8.5 out of 10. Had he gotten his first race win, I probably would have had him up at a 9 with Arbolino, but I think he finished second 6 times, and I honestly don't know if he even finished third at any point. But yeah, he's been in Moto2 for a couple of years now, so I feel like next year should really be the time that he does start taking wins. Next up, Honda Team Asia with Ayagura and Somkhat Chantra. Ogura is another one of the riders where he started off the season with an injury which you could kind of tell sort of affected him throughout pretty much the whole year. But I had him at a 7.5. I feel like there were some races where he was up there fighting, but I feel like that injury did really affect him. So if he can be injury free next year, obviously with a new team, but I feel like he should be up there fighting a lot more. So I have him at a 7.5. And I had Chantra at 7.5 as well. I feel like for the podium and a couple of others. If he can be a bit more consistent throughout the year next year, I feel like he could be not really fighting for the title just yet, but up there in sort of top 5 region.
Ogura, I put at a 7 out of 10. My notes that I wrote just had him a bit up and down. It'll be interesting to see what he does this year, having swapping to a new team. For Chencha, I've gone for an 8 out of 10. I think a lot of my score here is because that Japan win was so wholesome, and it was a really good result for the team. So that may have led to that score a bit better. Oh no, I'm going to pronounce this terribly. Italtrans racing team? Hopefully that's right. I have got Dennis Foggia at a 6 out of 10 because it was not a bad performance for a rookie. And for Joe Roberts, I've gone for a 5 out of 10. I think this year he sort of needs to come out swinging if he wants another opportunity to possibly go to MotoGP, especially now Aprilia with Trackhouse. I think if Joe has a really strong season, there's a possibility for him there. But if his performance was like last year, I just can't see it happening.
Just looking at my ratings for these two now, I feel like I almost could have switched them. But I'd Foggia at a 5.5, which does feel too low now. But he was probably the second or third most impressive rookie this season. Wasn't quite fighting for the podiums, but he was scoring top tens sort of pretty consistently. And as a rookie, that's all you can really ask for. Joe Roberts, I had a 6.5. I just feel like he's been on the grid for a fair while now, with one of the teams that have won titles in the last few years. He probably should have been a bit more consistently up there. Um, but yeah, he could really use a good year next year. Next up, Liqui Moly Husqvarna Intact, with Darren Binder and Lucas Tulovic. Darren Binder, obviously a rookie to the class, even though he was in MotoGP the year before. I had him at a 5 out of 10. I feel like he did have 2 or 3 injuries throughout the year. But apart from that, he wasn't going terribly. I feel like he was still fighting for top tens. Lucas Sulovic, another rookie, and another one that had a couple of injuries. I had him at a 4.5. I feel like he didn't really have many standout performances. But there are a few races I'm pretty sure he was fighting for top 10, so.
I'm very similar to you with this. For Darren Binder, I've gone 4 out of 10. While he was a rookie technically into Moto3, the fact that he's been in GP and Moto2 before, I really thought that he'd adapt faster to the machine. And for Tulovic, I have gone for a 4 out of 10 as well. Really, this team wasn't ideal this season. These guys are probably my biggest disappointment of this year, with just the two of them. Yeah. Hopefully next year things will turn up for this team. That's not what I was thinking. Hopefully things will go better for this team this year. Moving over to Pertamina Mandalika SAG team. We have Bo Ben Snyder, and this is Tiger Harder. Hopefully I've said that right. For Ben Snyder, I've gone for a 4 out of 10, and for Tiger, I have gone for a 3 out of 10. Pretty forgettable performances from them both this year.
I had Ben Schneider at a 4.5 and Tiger Harder at a 4. I feel like Ben Schneider, he started the year off with a podium in Circuit of the America, and that was pretty much his only standout performance. He did disappoint me a little bit. He's been in the class for, I think, 3-4 years now. But yeah, nothing really materialized out of his season. Tiger Harder, I'm 90% sure he was pretty much just a replacement rider, same as Cassidy. But sort of near the end of the year, he was getting into Q2, scoring some points, starting to really impress. So yeah, 4 out of 10 for him. Next up, Red Bull KTM with obviously Pedro Acosta and Albert Arenas. I had Arenas at a 6 out of 10. Um, Season was probably a little bit disappointing, obviously being with the top team in the class, only scoring one podium. But I feel like sort of near the end of the season, he was sort of getting into the top six, just about. But obviously he was outshone by Pedro Acosta, who I had at a 10 out of 10. I feel like he did everything that he needed to do. If he wasn't winning, he was getting second, third, fourth. Um, but yeah, not much else can really be said.
For Arenas, I went with a 4 out of 10. It could be because he was so outshone by his teammate, but I think with Pedro showing what that machine can do, I expected better results consistently throughout the season. So 4 out of 10. Pedro Acosta, 10 out of 10. I think he made one mistake, possibly, in a race. And so, yeah, he won the World Championship pretty much by a landslide. So, yeah, 10 out of 10 for Acosta. Moving over to Grassini Racing, I've got Jeremy Alcoba at a 5 out of 10. He is a little bit too spicy on track for my liking, and that's saying something considering I'm a massive Brad Binder and Marc Marquez fan. So, yeah, for someone to be too spicy for my taking, it's, yeah. Do have to wonder if he should still be on the track, but then we had Fanati still last year, so. Philip Salak, I have gone with a 6 out of 10. I think the potential's there, and with a little bit more time, I think he could have a really great season. I don't think he's going to be in the title fight this year, but never say never.
Mine's sort of similar. I had Alcoba at a 5 out of 10. I think it was one of two or three riders that ended up getting to the stage where they had like three warnings from the steward and started getting penalised harsher. Um, he might just be a little bit too ambitious into the first corner, because that's where most of his crashes end up coming. Um, so if he can work on that a bit, that'd probably be good. I'd sell out at a 7 out of 10. I do agree with what you said. The potential is there, and next year with Mark VDS, he could start to really shine. But I feel like he had a couple of good performances this year, so I have him at a 7. Next up, Yamaha Mastercamp VR46 with Manu Gonzalez and Koda Nozane. I had Nozane at a 3 out of 10. I feel like, again, with a lot of the riders, he had a couple of injuries to start off the season, but even after he came back and started getting fully fit, he wasn't really up there fighting. Pretty forgettable season, I'd say. But Manu Gonzalez, I had him at a 7.5 out of 10. He was very impressive. Started getting the podiums towards the end of the year. If he can work on getting a bit higher than 5th place most of the time, he should be right. But yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do next year.
For Gonzalez, I've gone for a 7 out of 10. Quite consistent, and I'm also really excited to see what he can do next year or this year, just because I think he's a lot more talented than his results are showing, and I'm hoping that as he gets more confidence and more consistent results, hopefully a few more higher than P5 places, like you said, that he'll really start to come into his own and be battling for podiums and victories quite quickly. For Nazan, I've gone for a 3 out of 10. While that is pretty harsh for a rookie and he was injured, it's, yeah, given how well his teammate did, I'd hoped for better. For RW Racing, we have Barry Bautas and Zonta van der Guberg. That was definitely butchered. Overall, nothing special jumped out at me when I was writing these ratings for these guys, so yeah.
I had Baltus at 6 out of 10. I feel like he probably could have done a little bit better, but there were signs of potential throughout the season. With a little bit of a better team, I feel like he could start to really show that potential a bit more. But I don't think it was a terrible season for him. And Zonta, I had a 5.5 out of 10. Obviously, being so young, I think he's 18 this year, with pretty limited experience. I feel like to score, I think, 2 top 10s throughout the year was pretty good, and if he can build on that next year, should be getting top 10s consistently. Next up, forward racing with Alberto Sura and Alexis Screege. Forward racing and their chassis are probably comfortably the worst on the grid. So neither riders were really up there much. But Sura, I had a 3 out of 10. Another replacement rider, pretty much, for just the second half of the season. Wasn't really anywhere near the points at any stage, I don't think. Sort of just flew under the radar. So I have him at a 3 out of 10. And Alexis Screege, he was starting to score a couple of points at some point in this season. If he can get a move onto a Calyx at some point, be interesting to see what he can do. But yeah, nothing else apart from that, really.
For Escrige, I've gone for a 5 out of 10. Like you said, that bike is probably, and the team is probably the least strongest team on the grid, and the fact he's a rookie probably weighs in a little bit to my rating. It would be really cool to see him on a Calyx, and I think that would be quite beneficial for him. But then I kind of want to see everyone in a Calyx at some point, but you know, we don't always get what we want. For Sura, I've gone for a 4 out of 10. I don't really have anything to comment there. So moving on to the last team, Speed Up Racing. Alonso Lopez had a pretty good season. I've given him a 7 out of 10 because he was easily outshone at the end of the season by his teammate Firmin Aldeguer, who I've given an 8 out of 10. This was probably quite harsh because I tried to not think about the fact that at the end of the season he was so absolutely dominant over the rest of the field, and I wonder what got into him in that second half of the season, whether they found a setting with a bike or he found a different way of riding through some corners or who knows what. But 8 out of 10, I did debate a 9, but given the first half of the season, yeah, that's why he got the 8.
I had pretty similar thinking. Alonso Lopez, I had a 7.5 out of 10. I feel like coming into the season, everyone sort of expected him to be up there fighting throughout pretty much the whole season. He wasn't quite up there, but he was still sort of around that 5th, 6th sort of region. Obviously, second half of the season, completely outshone by Aldeguer, as pretty much everyone on the grid was. I had Aldeguer at a 9 out of 10. Had he been a bit more consistent at the start, he almost could have been a 9.5, maybe even a 10. Yeah, excited to see what he can do next year, if he can remain a bit more consistent than he did this year.
I definitely think that the title fight will probably involve Aldeguer and Arbolino, definitely. So that is it for our Moto2 Riders ratings. As always, let us know if you disagree. We always read and reply to comments. Admittedly, some of them can get a little bit spicy sometimes, but I can guarantee you I always read them. And if you liked this, please like and subscribe this video. And as always, I will be back the same time next week. Every single Monday, I'll be here rambling about MotoGP. You have a lovely week.